Hello and warm greetings to everyone. Before we dive in, if it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. Today, we're exploring the mysterious story of a young woman named Lisa Ziegert who vanished under strange circumstances. What really happened to her? And how did her case, which lasted 25 years, finally reach a resolution? Stay tuned because we'll uncover all the shocking details in this video. Lisa Ziegert was born in the spring of 1968 in Holyoke, Massachusetts, but her family didn't stay there long. In 1974, they moved to Agawam, where Lisa spent most of her childhood. After graduating from Agawam High School in 1986, she enrolled at Westfield State College, now known as Westfield State University, and earned her teaching degree in 1990. Following her graduation, Lisa dedicated her life to working with children with special needs at Agawam Middle School. She was known for her cheerful and lovable personality and shared a special bond with her students, who felt respected and valued by her. Her professional life wasn't limited to teaching. She also worked part-time at a local gift shop where she enjoyed interacting with people. She was always smiling, playful, and loved by everyone around her. In short, her career was a blend of care, creativity, and dedication, making her an unforgettable figure in her community and leaving a beautiful impact on everyone who knew her. On the morning of April 16, 1992, store clerk Sophia Minar arrived at the shop. Sophia was Lisa's co-worker. When she got there, she was surprised to see Lisa's car still parked outside, the store light still on, and the front door wide open. The shop was clearly still open, which struck Sophia as strange. Lisa should have already been home after finishing her shift. As Sophia stepped inside, confusion grew. She found Lisa's car keys and wallet left behind in the store. What shocked her even more was that when she called out Lisa's name, there was no answer. How could this be? Lisa's belongings were there, yet she was nowhere to be found. This alarming discovery led Sophia to immediately call the police. When the police arrived at the shop, they noticed clear signs of a struggle in the back room, traces of blood scattered on some boxes and greeting cards. Footprints were also found on the floor, suggesting that Lisa may have been dragged out of the store through the back door. No other physical evidence was discovered inside. That same day, the local police, supported by the FBI and Massachusetts State Police, launched an extensive search for Lisa. At first, investigators considered the possibility of a robbery. However, that theory was quickly dismissed. Nothing had been stolen from the store, and Lisa's wallet remained untouched. The police then began piecing together Lisa's last known movements before her disappearance, relying on testimonies from family members, neighboring shop owners, and even some of the store's customers. At 17:50, Lisa's sister stopped by to visit her at work. The visit lasted about 30 minutes, and she left Lisa in good spirits and acting completely normal. At 19:20, Lisa had a brief conversation with the owner of a nearby carpet store. They talked for about 15 minutes about an issue affecting local shop owners. After checking the store's cash register, investigators found that the last recorded transaction was made at 2020. Based on all these details, the police concluded that Lisa's disappearance occurred sometime after 2020, and it was clear that she had not left on her own. Most likely, she had been abducted, since both her car and her wallet were left behind. The local police, the FBI, and the Massachusetts State Police continued an extensive search operation. Foot teams were deployed to inspect the area around the store, helicopters were used to survey distant lands, and police dogs were brought in to try to track any trace. Unfortunately, despite these efforts, no tangible leads were found. For days after Lisa's disappearance, her body was finally discovered in a wooded area near Route 75 in Agawam, Massachusetts, about 3 miles from the store where she worked. The discovery was made around 2 p.m. by a passerby who was out walking his dog on the outskirts of town. He noticed a woman lying on the ground near the road, partially unclothed, and immediately called the police. When officers arrived at the scene, they were able to confirm the victim's identity. It was Lisa Ziegert. Investigators collected evidence, and medical examinations revealed that Lisa had been sexually assaulted and stabbed multiple times in the neck. There were also signs of resistance, indicating she had fought desperately for her life before her death. In addition, with the help of the FBI, police recovered a DNA sample believed to belong to the perpetrator. However, the murder weapon was never found. They also discovered tire tracks near the spot where Lisa's body had been left. The crime had a profound impact on the residents of Agawam, leaving the community in shock. Once considered a safe and quiet town, people now lived in fear, worried that the perpetrator might strike again. In response to this fear, parents began keeping their daughters home from work for a while. Many women enrolled in self-defense classes, and a significant number even applied for permits to carry firearms. Additionally, local businesses and the police implemented a series of precautionary measures to ensure the safety of employees and residents alike. As mentioned earlier, a DNA sample from the perpetrator was recovered. This sample was compared against DNA from several of Lisa's close acquaintances and co-workers. However, the results were disappointing for the police. None of the samples matched, and all were cleared from suspicion. Meanwhile, the local police, FBI, and state authorities continued an intensive search to identify the culprit. As for the tire tracks found near the place where Lisa's body was discovered, this lead initially seemed important. The police carried out a series of intensive investigations regarding it, but in the end, it did not contribute to any progress in the case. For a year and a half after the crime, the case saw no significant developments, and hopes of identifying the perpetrator gradually began to fade. A year and a half after the crime, in October 1993, Lisa's case resurfaced through two key events. First, it was featured on the well-known television program Unsolved Mysteries, which focuses on unresolved cases. Within an hour of the episode airing, dozens of tips were submitted, an encouraging sign for investigators. Among these tips, one came from a customer who had visited the store on the day Lisa disappeared. She reported that she had been at the shop around 21:05 and found it empty. She also mentioned hearing some noise and commotion in the back room of the store, but quickly left. This testimony helped the police refine the estimated time of Lisa's disappearance. Other than this, most of the remaining tips did not provide any significant information or lead to important clues that could identify the perpetrator. Meanwhile, Lisa's family, especially her mother, held on to hope of finding the killer and solving the mystery of her daughter's case. They never missed an opportunity to keep Lisa's case from being forgotten or neglected. The second key event involved a woman named Joyce Scarra, who, through her attorney, filed a report with the Agawam police. She claimed that her husband, Gary Scarra, might have been involved in Lisa's murder. Joyce's accusations were based on several points. First, Gary's excessive interest in the media coverage of Lisa's case. Joyce noted that he would rush to watch television whenever the case was mentioned, behavior she considered unusual. Second, his return home on the night of the abduction in an abnormal state, covered with scratches. Third, Gary's purchase of a music box for Joyce from the store where Lisa worked. He claimed that it had been sold to him by an elderly woman with gray hair, a description that did not match anyone working at the store. Joyce, who later divorced Gary, did not see her report taken seriously by the police for several reasons. First, much of the information she had regarding her husband's alleged involvement did not reach the authorities at the time. The police only learned of some details later. Second, Joyce's mental health issues and alcohol addiction, combined with her ongoing custody disputes with Gary, cast doubt on her credibility. The second reason, in particular, led the police to question the reliability of Joyce's claims about her husband. Third, the police had received more than 10 similar reports from women accusing their spouses of involvement in Lisa's murder. Joyce's report was just one among them. The sheer number of claims diminished its credibility in the eyes of law enforcement. Despite this, the police summoned Gary for questioning. He denied any involvement in Lisa's case, but refused to provide a DNA sample. The authorities created a file on him and kept it in the case records, then released him. After 1993, investigations continued into Lisa's case, though hopes of solving it remained slim, and this situation persisted for many years. As mentioned earlier, regarding Gary Scarra, the police had questioned him following his wife's report. He denied any involvement in Lisa's murder and refused to provide a DNA sample. Legally, he could not be forced to submit one. Gary was released at the time, but his refusal to provide a DNA sample kept him in the circle of suspicion. This circle included Gary and all individuals who had refused to give a DNA sample and already had case files. The police compiled a list of their names. In 2002, Gary agreed to attend another interrogation session, but he continued to refuse providing a DNA sample. 6 years later, in 2008, he was called in for yet another questioning. By this time, Gary was fully aware of the police's insistence on obtaining his DNA by any means. He was extremely cautious in his actions, refraining from touching anything in the interrogation room, even the water bottle that was offered to him. In September 2016, 24 years after Lisa's murder, the police turned to a new technology to crack the case: DNA phenotyping. This technique allows experts to generate physical descriptions of a person based on the information stored in their DNA. It can reveal eye color, hair color, age, and sex. While DNA phenotyping does not always produce an exact likeness, it provides a fairly accurate approximation, making it highly useful overall. Using DNA phenotyping and the perpetrator's DNA sample, experts produce two approximate images, one depicting the suspect at age 25 and another at age 50. Immediately after these images were released to the public, the police received over 100 phone calls, with some individuals claiming to have seen a man resembling the photos. However, most of these leads did not result in any significant breakthroughs. As mentioned earlier, the police had created a list of individuals who had refused to provide DNA samples. The list included many suspects, but thanks to DNA phenotyping, it was narrowed down to 11 people after excluding those whose physical features did not match the composite images of the perpetrator. Gary Scarra was among those on the list. Faced with this situation, and the difficulty of obtaining DNA samples from the individuals involved, the police requested grand jury authorization in late summer 2017 to compel the people on the list to provide DNA samples for comparison with the suspect's DNA. The request was approved by the grand jury. On September 13, 2017, the state police went to Gary Scarra's home to inform him that he was legally required to provide a DNA sample. However, he was not at home at the time. The following day, September 14, 2017, one of Gary's acquaintances arrived at the police station carrying 3 handwritten letters left by him. The first letter contained an apology to Lisa's family. The second letter was a detailed confession in which Gary admitted to raping and killing Lisa and provided insights into significant aspects of his life, along with many personal details. He revealed that since childhood, he had been obsessed with kidnapping and restraint and had been unable to resist or dismiss these urges. Gary explained that on that fateful day, he allowed himself to commit a horrific act. He stated that he had not intended to kill Lisa when he grabbed her, but events spiraled out of control. He affirmed that Lisa was his only victim and expressed deep remorse and self-loathing for his actions. He also mentioned that he had repeatedly considered turning himself in to the police, but had remained hesitant, describing himself as a coward. Gary concluded his letter by explaining that his hesitation was not only about turning himself in to the police, but also about whether to end his own life. Ultimately, he chose to take his own life. As for the third letter, it was his final will. After reviewing the letters, the police launched an intensive search to locate Gary as quickly as possible. Their efforts soon paid off when Gary's car was found in a parking lot at Stafford Springs Hospital. Inside the vehicle, the police discovered another suicide note placed on the dashboard. The note read, "To whoever finds my body, I apologize for any psychological trauma I may have caused. Massachusetts State Police, thank you." The police later learned that Gary had attempted to end his life by overdosing on Motrin, but he ultimately drove himself to the Stafford Springs Hospital emergency room. It was there that Gary Scarra was taken into custody after receiving the necessary medical treatment on September 16, 2017. The following day, a search warrant was issued for Gary's apartment, where several items were collected, including his toothbrush, as potential sources of DNA. It was later confirmed that his DNA matched the sample found at the scene of Lisa Ziegert's murder. Additionally, the police obtained further evidence by examining the divorce file of Joyce Scara, Gary's ex-wife, who had passed away in 2014. Investigators discovered claims from Joyce stating that Gary had told her he could only have sexual relations with her if he was in control, with a knife held to her neck. The police also learned from Joyce's family that she had called her sister the day after Lisa's abduction, expressing concern because Gary had returned home very late the previous night, appearing agitated and in an abnormal state, covered with scratches. Furthermore, Gary had given Joyce a music box containing a spinning blue horse, claiming he had purchased it from the store where Lisa worked. However, the description he gave to the seller did not match any of the employees at the shop. As previously mentioned, the police did not have access to all the information and evidence that Joyce Scara possessed at the time. The report she filed through her attorney in 1993 included only part of these details. Additionally, her credibility was questioned due to her mental health issues, alcohol addiction, and disputes with Gary over child custody. All of these factors contributed to why it took so long to identify and convict Gary. After his arrest, Gary Scara faced multiple charges, including first-degree murder, rape, and kidnapping. The evidence against him was strong, including his own confession. Despite this, he initially denied the charges. However, 2 years later, on September 25, 2019, Gary pleaded guilty, admitting to killing Lisa Ziegert and all the charges against him, waiving his right to a jury trial. Gary Scara was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for first-degree murder. Meanwhile, the district attorney's office dropped the kidnapping and aggravated rape charges because the statute of limitations for those crimes had expired. Thus, Lisa Ziegert's case was finally solved after 25 years of investigations and inquiries, bringing closure to her family and the residents of Agawam. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to support us in continuing. We'll see you in the next video with a new story.